Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Fireside Chat. How we doing? My name is Cameron Rooney. I'm here to host you guys today. Thank you. Oh, hey, how you going? Who said that? I can barely see you with the lights. What's up? How you doing? Yeah, we're here to talk to two lovely people that can give us a bit of insight into a lot of things. Game development, a lot about the industry, a lot about the careers, and yeah, you know what? I'm just going to introduce our first guest, who is Joshua Boggs. Joshua, you want a big round of applause for Joshua today, guys? Take a seat.
Thank you.
Join me. How we doing?
Good.
That's good. That's good.
Relaxed. How are you?
Very well. Very well. Good. Yeah. So, how's RTX treating you?
It's been very good.
That's good. That's good. We were waiting on another guest. I'm just seeing if he's arrived yet and seeing if there's any reason why we can't get started. No, we're all good. Cool. Fireside chat, huh?
Yeah, I think
Is that you?
we can pretend it's a fire.
Yeah, cool. We were going to have a fireplace behind us, but we just decided to go with our faces because it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to introduce our next guest, who is probably the man who needs no introduction, Mr. Hideo Kojima. I was hoping I'd get that reception, but it didn't really happen. Okay, that's fine. Welcome, Kojima-san.
Hi.
And welcome, James, who is your interpreter for today. How you doing?
Thank you. Doing all right?
That's good. That's good. So what we're trying to do here today is essentially just talk to both of you as game developers today and see what we can discover along the way between both of your careers. So Hideo Kojima, you are a man that needs literally no introduction in 2017. But in 1986, that wasn't the case. You grew up in Osaka, Japan, wanting to create movies, and eventually your career started as the designer of Penguin Adventure, or Yume Taireku Adventure, the sequel to Antarctic Adventure. So Penguin Adventure was released in 1986 for the MSX, which is older than me. How long after Penguin Adventure were you made the senior associate on Metal Gear for the MSX?
ですね、31年前かな、業界に入って最初からいきなり、ゲームデザインを任されました。
So I entered into the game industry 31 years ago, and right away I was given the task of designing games.
で、この夢大陸アドベンチャーっていうのはもう僕の企画じゃなくて別の人の企画があって、それに企画でちょっと参加してただけです。だから僕の作品というより、企画をサポートしてたって感じですね。
So actually, Penguin Adventure is not my game. It was designed by someone else, and I joined the team as support, game design support.
で、最初に任されたゲームが、ボツになって、次の作品がメタルギアです。
So the first game that I was given was given to me in full was a game that unfortunately didn't make it to market, but the next game was Metal Gear Solid, or excuse me, Metal Gear.
And so, how old were you when you worked on Penguin Adventure?
学校卒業してのは22か23です。
So it was right after I graduated from university, so I was either 22 or 23, I believe.
Wow, cool. And so Joshua Boggs, a name that might need some introduction to some people here. You studied development and software engineering at AIE.
Yes, yeah, I was there for a couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, and that was when you graduated in 2009. Do we have any AIE students here? Hey, we got one. Wow, okay, cool.
There's a few.
So your career kicked off as the lead developer at Fireman, and you were working on Spy Mouse.
Yeah, so I mean, I wasn't immediately placed into lead development role. Spy Mouse was known by another title internally at Firemint, and they were about to release it and then decided to back off on it. And one of the people who I work with now, Adrian Moore, actually was the lead designer on it, and he acted a lot like a bit of a mentor for me in terms of like bringing design, you know, into games in an actual production fashion.
I see.
And then towards the end of development, he left, and so the mantle kind of fell like down to the next senior person on the team, I guess, which was
you.
me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
So that was Spy Mouse was released in 2011, right?
Yes.
And you graduated in 2009. So that was only 2 years after you graduated.
I think so. Yes.
I googled all of this, by the way.
Yes,
so.
that's probably correct. Yeah.
So what did it feel like to be put into that development role, especially if it was thrusted upon you?
It was humbling, but I think it made me a better game developer, because like I kind of think like if you put someone in a role of accountability, like you'll bring out the best in them.
Of course. And how old were you then?
23 or 4.
23. There you
4,
go.
somewhere around there. Yeah.
So the game creators' careers kick off at 22, 23. So Kojima-san, to go back to you, after, well, what do we have? A very sorted history. Metal Gear, which came out in 1987. Then you went on to help to create Snatcher in 1988, Police Noughts in 1994, Zone of the Enders, and of course creating the unforgettable Metal Gear Solid series, which I think we all know. And then Joshua, you and Moore, who you mentioned before, would work together on the movies, Populous, Theme Hospital, Syndicate Wars, Rolling with Katamari, and Real Racing 2 and 3.
So yeah, I worked on Real Racing 2 and 3 and helped out with Flight Control as well, which was one of the earlier titles to hit the App Store. But yes, Adrian Moore's credits do involve Theme Hospital and Populous in the movies, and that was why he was such a good sort of realistic mentor. Like when you first come out of uni, you have specific ideas about like what development's like, and I think the best lesson is getting that sort of reality check.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah.
So then in 2012, you founded Love Shack and announced Framed.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So has everyone played Framed before? Do we have very many Framed fans? Hey, there you go.
There's a few.
So as of 2015, Framed has over 30 awards, including the Visual Design Award at the Indiecade, Excellence in Design at IGF China, and the Best Game at the Free Play Indie Festival, and so many more. And last but not least, Hideo Kojima once said that Framed was his favorite game of 2014. So, Kojima-san, why did you say that Framed was your favorite game of 2014?
僕はスマホのゲームって全然やったことなくてですね、自分で購入したこともなかったんですよ。なんで僕のスマホの中にはゲームが1個も入ってなかったです、当時。
So at the time, I didn't play any games on smartphones. I had never purchased one, so at the time that Josh's game came out, I didn't have a single smartphone game on my phone.
で知り合いの人とカフェに行ってコーヒー飲んでた時にこんな面白いのがあるっていうのを見せてもらって、でそれでその場ですぐダウンロードして、それでゲームを始めたんですけど。
So I went to a cafe with a friend of mine. He said, "Oh, you have to check out this game. It's really great." And it was Framed, and Mr. Kojima immediately downloaded it right away and started to play it.
フレームドなんでフレームの中で、いわゆるその 3D でもなく映画でもなくフレームの中で漫画のようなコマで、そこでそれがさらに立体で動きながら 音楽もセンスがいいですしデザインのセンスも良くてすごく世界観が伝わってくるんでちょっと今までなかった経験だったのですごくハマってですね、そのカフェで3時間ぐらいずっとやってました。
So the way the game is presented to you is, inside of the frame. It's not focused on 3D graphics per se. It's more designed in a comic book-like feel, and had really good design sense, had really good artistic sense. The sound was good too, and it was just a totally new experience. And so in that cafe, I ended up playing it for 3 hours straight.
Wow.
で僕の携帯には、ジョシュアのゲームしか入ってないんで次入るとしたらフレームド2が入ります。
Yeah, so even now, actually, Framed is the only game that I have on my phone. And the next game I'll put on will be Framed 2.
ありがとうございます。
When's Frame 2 coming out? That was a good plug. You need
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Well, I mean, you mentioned the comic book style and the art of Framed. So, in terms of inspiration for you, Kojima-san, you're known for your love of the arts, and you've also said that your body is reportedly 70% made out of movies. So, Snatcher was one of the very first games, very first full games that you worked on after Metal Gear. What do you remember about the movies, music, and books at that time that inspired you?
Well, アートも漫画も映画も小説も音楽も大好きで、それがないと僕は生きていけないです。食事をするようなもんなんで、そういうのを取り入れることで僕は生きながらえているというそういう人間です。
So I really love art. I love manga. I love music. I love all these like novels and all these things. For me, I need these things to live. It's like food for me. I can't survive without these things.
で31年前ですね、映画のようなゲームというのはちょっと難しい表現ですけども、映画を見た時に感じるようなドラマティックな感じをゲームで表現したいっていうのが最初の、僕のゲーム作りの動機です。
So 31 years ago, it might be difficult to imagine now, but games were very different. And what I wanted to do at the time was take the kind of impression and feeling that you get from a movie, the drama and the story that you get from a movie, and put that into video games. That was my first, goal when I entered in the game industry.
And
例えば、
no one had done that at the time, right? Like,
I told you what that
そうですね。
Yes, that's correct.
ストーリーがあるとかそういうのを以前に映画で感じるようなワクワク感とかドキドキ感とか映画の主人公になったような気持ちになる、そういうゲームはなかなかなかったですよね。
Yeah, and even preceding the story, there weren't any games that gave you that same kind of feeling that you get from a movie, like you are the hero, like you're in action. It's kind of.
プレイヤーが、自分の分身というか、時期戦闘機を操ったりして敵を倒すっていう感覚のゲームはありましたけど、それが自分自身に重なるっていうのはなかなかなかったですよね。
Yeah, of course, there were games, where you controlled like a player on the screen, or you controlled like a fighter jet or something like that. That represents you on the screen. But there's never one where you actually put yourself in the role of the person in the game.
でメタルギアっていうかステルスのジャンルのゲームなんですけど、あれを最初にやりたかったっていうのは、ザ・グレード・エスケープっていう大脱走っていう映画があるんですけども、あれでスティーブ・マックイーンがトンネルから出た時に、ナチスがサーチライトを照らしていて、それに見つからないように身を伏せている時の緊張感というか、見つかる見つからないっていう緊張感、ああいうスティーブ・マックイーンと自分が一緒になれるようなそういうゲームを作りたかったっていうので、作ったのがメタルギアになります。
So talking about Metal Gear for a bit, it's a stealth game, and I was inspired by the movie The Great Escape with Steve McQueen. There's a scene in the movie where he makes it out of the tunnel, and there's a bunch of Nazi searchlights looking for him. And watching the movie, you become Steve McQueen. Like you feel the tension of that situation. I wanted that to have that same feeling in video games. And that's why I made Metal Gear.
でゲームの中でプレイヤーがスティーブ・マックイーンになりきるにはやっぱりそれなりの舞台装置というか ストーリーと設定がないと、あるいは演出がないとなれないので、そこでストーリーテリングっていう手法を、ゲームに取り入れたという感じです。
In order to get this, impart this feeling on the player that they are Steve McQueen, you need the story, you need the setting, you need the performances to back it up. And so that's why I focused on kind of a dramatic or narrative game creation style.
That's awesome. Wow, thank you. I was going to ask you the same question, Josh, but now you have to follow that up.
Yeah, no.
So-
That's
Well, it was a similar question, really. So your game was heavily inspired by the noir and comic books, and it's a very simple puzzle mechanic. What inspired you and your team along that path?
So I think, like, for the comic book perspective, I kind of wanted to make this game that was, normally in games you have like a world that you inhabit, and you have actions that you perform inside that world. So I wanted to do something where the world was sort of like presented to you as it was, and the actions themselves were all varied and they were never fixed.
Okay.
And I didn't really know how to do that, and then so I read this book by Scott McCloud called Understanding Comics.
Okay.
And then like immediately I realized like a comic book panel is the perfect way to encapsulate like a set action or a piece of scenery. And so ordering those events came very naturally. So it was more of a like a mechanical, like a game mechanic, than a comic book per se. And then for the noir thing, we kind of just stumbled upon that because we knew the kind of feeling we wanted to give. Like we wanted it to feel like a lot of noir does, like this kind of everything's out to get you, and you're trying to catch up with what's like narratively as well as what the characters are going through. And so like the very first version of Framed had like really slow action that wasn't clear at all, and the backgrounds were like grayscale and desaturated, and it was really gross. It just it didn't work.
Wow.
So Ollie Brown, who's the artist on the team, tried something where he made the backgrounds like a lot more vibrant and pastel-y, and it gave what we're after, because what we're really after is like the feeling that noir has, because everyone understands what noir is, and they have certain emotions and things that go with it. So because we have no words, we want to instill that in a way without saying it.
Sure. Makes sense, yeah. So the mechanic came before the noir theme? you'd
Yes.
say? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So like when you have a new idea or new inspiration or I don't know, something that about a mechanic or a theme or music, what do? Do you just write it down? Do you tell someone about it? Do you?
Usually, so I feel like ideas aren't mine sometimes, most of the time, to be honest. I think Tom Waits has this like famous story about how he was driving down the highway, an idea for a song comes in his head, and he like, he's this massive back catalogue, incredible, singer and songwriter, and he just shouts to no one in his car, go bother someone else, like go give this idea to Bob Dylan or something. I don't have time for you right now. So at times I feel like it's like that. So sometimes I feel like I have to write it down before it like escapes. So I'm like catching the idea almost.
Sure.
And other times like it feels like the idea is like the meat in a stew or something, and and my brain is like the soup, and like I need the idea to like just sit in my head and not write it down at all, so that it kind of soaks up other experiences I've had and stuff, and
Sure.
gives more. Yeah.
How many people in the audience today are creators or would call themselves a creator? Are you like doing art or animation? Wow, okay. That's the vast majority of you. Wow, that's crazy. So Kojima-san, a similar question. Do you talk to your teams or do you just write it down?
ですね、アイデアはいつでも24時間出るので、今もちょっと違うこと考えたんですけど、アイデアは絶対メモしません。
So I'm thinking of ideas 24 hours a day, but I don't write them down.
常に新しいアイデアが出て上書きされていって、最終的に記憶に残るのが一番いいアイデアだと思うので、メモはあんまりしません。
Yeah, so I'm always thinking of new ideas over and over, and they're constantly overriding each other. And so I don't write it down because I feel that after all this overriding process has gone through a certain number of cycles, I'll eventually be left with the best idea that will remain in my mind. So that's why I don't write it down.
なんですけど、プロジェクトを一つ決めて、そのゲームを作る、そのお話を作るとなった時の細かなアイデアはディテールに関してはメモをします。
However, once I've chosen a project, like the larger theme has been decided, and I'm thinking about all the little tiny details, I'll write those down.
Okay, cool.
で、誰もがやったことのないアイデアって一番僕は貴重だというか、そういうゲームを作りたい、そういう物語を作りたいんで、思いついた時にですね、人に喋りたくなるんですよね。で、これはちょっと結構すぐ喋っちゃうので、そこを抑えるのが非常に難しいですよ。
So I think like really original ideas, these are the most important thing to me. So when I come up with something that I think is really unique, I just want to tell someone. Like
Sure.
it's really difficult to stop myself from telling people about the new ideas.
Cool. So whose idea was it to put the low roar song in Death Stranding?
あれは僕ですね。はい、
That was my idea.
Okay, good. It's a great idea. Cool. Well, I was going to ask you, Joshua, the Frames credits show like about 5 different Australian government grants? And
Yeah. It wasn't.
proceeds?
Yeah. So we did receive a lot of government assistance. We applied through a different bunch of agencies, and so they were mainly Screen Australia, which is a federal level fund.
Yep.
And Film Victoria, which is based in Victoria. We also got a couple of loans from friends, and also the other one was Indie Fund,
Okay. Yeah.
which was a fund founded by like Jonathan Blow and
Yep.
Kelly Santiago and a bunch of that kind of first wave indie creator success stories.
So to get the concept from writing it down to like pitching it and getting the funds for it,
Yeah.
what was that journey like? How did it go from paper to?
Yeah. So it the first time I pitched it and it was successful was I didn't have time to do a full prototype, but I had designed a number of levels, and the team too had designed a number of levels on paper. So I walked in to the funding, government funding office, and sat down with one of the funding investment managers.
Okay.
And explained the game, and they were like, "All right, well, can you show me the game?"
Sure.
And I just had paper cutouts
Yep.
of stick figures.
Like a paper prototype.
Yeah, it was a paper prototype, and like platforms and stuff. And I gave it to them, and said, "This is the game."
That's almost exactly the game. That's really
Exactly. And they were like, "Okay," and I was like, "This is like." There's no screen, obviously, but this is the game. Like, this is the pure version of the game.
Cool. Sure. It's
And
really cool.
yeah, it worked out
Do you still have that?
somewhere. Yeah,
That's really cool.
I still do a lot of our levels on paper like that.
Yeah.
Like we play test that way before we go into the really expensive and long, lengthy process of actually making the levels. Yeah.
Wow, cool. I mean, both of your games, and the games both of you create, I should say, seem to be in a constant struggle between narrative and mechanics. So which one's coming first, and is the game or informing the narrative, or is the narrative informing the game? Kojima-san, to what end does the design drive the narrative, and or is it the narrative that drives the design?
僕の場合でいいんですよね。ストーリーもゲームデザインも一人でやってるので、並行です。
So I do story, the narrative, and the game design myself. So I'm doing them at the same time, actually.
ゲームデザインをしながら、ストーリーを書いていくんですけども、そのテーマキーワードを決めて、その両方に橋渡しをするような感じで、同時並行で作っていきます。でキャラクターの設定とか世界観とか、細かなディテールも同じように並行して自分の 内部だけで、やってます。
So I have the game design and this story at the same time, and I choose like keywords that are fundamental to both of these, and I basically kind of connect the dots between both of them, back and forth, and doing these two jobs in parallel. So I have like the characters, the world, many important things for the game design and the story, do them in parallel.
当然ストーリーでこうしたいというピークがあってもゲームで実現しないことも当然あるので、そこはまあ実験をそのストーリーを、どうするかということよりもゲームでの実験をしながら精査して、ストーリーも微調整して、ゲームデザインとストーリーをこう一緒にこう束ねていくような作り方です。
Of course, sometimes there are like peaks in your story where the story takes the lead. So in those instances, then we test how to design the game around that. What's the best way to make it so that the game works with that story peak? And conversely, we'll also kind of tweak the story along with that in order to make sure that they kind of get tied together very tightly.
It's really cool. There must be so much in your mind. Like, Josh, did you come up with the concept of the? You answered this before, didn't you? The answer of the noir setting first, or the comic book first?
Yeah. It was comic book first.
Yeah. Do you remember how it felt when the two were combined? Did it was it crystal clear at some point?
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting because when I was making Frame, and the team too, we were trying to make something where it felt like. So normally when you play a game, there's what you're doing in the game with the controller, and you're moving your character around, and there's a story going along with it, and a lot of Kojima's games are tied together really well. So I wanted to kind of experiment with not having any barrier between them, so that what you were manipulating or what you were doing in the game was the story. So that's kind of what Frame was as an experiment. And when that came together, even when it had the really grayscale dropbacks and everything, it was really I knew then and there that this was going to work. And it's kind of like Framed in general is a lot of the themes, I guess, are taking leaps of faith, and you can always correct them later. And I think it's telling of the development process itself too. That was very much a payoff in that way.
I complimented Kojima-san's music choice before, but I should also compliment yours. It was very good.
That wasn't me. That was actually Adrian. He composed
really?
it all. Yeah, it was really good.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Wow, cool. So with Metal Gear Solid, Kojima-san, Metal Gear Solid 5 saw almost like a 20-year-old story filled in, going back and filling in the one of the only gaps left in the Metal Gear history. And not to mention the fact that Otacon's Metal Gear Mark II is in Snatcher as well. Something very similar. Did you always have that vision? That's a big question.
最初はというか毎回そのタイトルを作ってる時はそれで終わりっていう気持ちで作ってます。
So whenever I make a game, I always consider it to be the last. Like it's not necessarily part of a series. It's a complete work in and of itself.
なので一作作った後に次どうするかっていうのをその都度考えてつながるように苦労して作ってるって感じですけど。
Yeah, so when it does come to the time where I'm going to make a sequel to a game, then I think at that point that's when I begin to think about what to do with it, and I have to work very hard to try to make those connections between different titles.
日本の漫画家で手塚治虫さんというアトムとか書かれている有名な漫画家の方が多分皆さんご存知だと思います。知ってますよね多分。
You know the manga author Tezuka Osamu? Everyone know him? Yeah.
で松本零士先生というハーロックとか書いてる漫画家も僕好きなんですけどご存知ですか？
There's another manga author named Matsumoto Reiji who did Harlock. Does anybody know him?
で、この2人に特徴なのはですね、作品ごとにキャラクターがあるんですけど全てが別の作品に出るんです。 A という作品のキャラクターが B という作品にも出たり C という作品にも出たりっていうキャラクター世界観は違うんですけども、まあカメオ出演とかをよくする。
So both of these authors, they have a different series of manga, but they'll have different characters from different series appearing almost like a cameo in each of the different series along the way.
でまあ、僕もそのゲームでそういうことをしようかなと思うので、まあ、メタルギアマーク2とかそういうのをまあ、入れてみましたというところです。
But I took inspiration from that, so that's why I did something like in Metal Gear Solid 4, I had the Metal Gear Mark II from Snatcher appear in the game.
でメルル・シルバーバーグっていうメタルギアソリッドに出た女の子は実はポリスノーツというのにも出てたりします。
So for example, Meryl Silverberg, you might know from Metal Gear, she actually appeared in Police Knots.
全然違う世界なので、設定的にはちょっとおかしいんですけど、キャラクターとしては同じ、女の子が出ていると。
So it's a totally different world setting, Police Knots and Metal Gear, but the character is the same. So it's kind of strange, but she appears as the same character in different titles.
Yeah, and because I see what you're doing, but in Snatcher, the engineer says, I named Metal Gear after the menace of the 20th century. Like a full callback. It's awesome.
そうですね。まああんまり細かなつながりってちょっと弱いところがあるんですけど、まあ一種サービスみたいなところです。
Yeah, making really like connect down the really fine details is not my strength, so I really just like to think of it as more like fan service.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we all appreciated it. So. I imagine back in the 80s and 90s when you were working on Snatcher and Metal Gear Solid 1 and other games like that, the technology would have informed a lot of what you could do in the game. Is there anything that you've shelved from an idea back then and waited for the technology to catch up? Maybe something you wrote down?
ですね、できないことがすごく多いんですよね。今じゃなくて過去ね、30数年前は 3D ポリゴンを使いませんし、すごく限られた状況の中でエンターテインメントを作らないといけない、そういう時代でした。
So 31 years ago, there are many things that you couldn't do. Of course, there were no 3D polygons. There were many types of restrictions. This is the kind of reality that we lived in at the time.
でハードがテクノロジーが全然まだまだの状況でものを作らなければいけないっていうのはあの時代では他の他社もそうなんですよね。そこは平等です。
So we had these massive technological limitations, but we needed to make entertainment with using them in any case. This was the case for everyone in that field. Everyone in that industry was the same playing field.
なのでその限られたテクノロジーで限られた条件の下で人より面白いものを作る、人が断念したものを作るっていうところに価値があるので、そこはやっぱりゲームデザイナーなのでアイデアで克服するという手法でやってきたので、まあ他の人が作れないようなものを作れてきたと思います。だから、ある種あの時代だったからこそステルスが生まれたっていうのもありますし、そこはラッキーだったと思いますね。
Right, so we had these technological limitations, but we still needed to make something entertaining, and the only way to overcome those limitations was through game design. The game designer was a key person to overcome these limitations. If you had a good idea, that would be your key to success. So, that's probably where actually new ideas came from. Like my idea for stealth came from the limitations that were imposed upon the hardware like that. So in reality, I feel almost very lucky that I took part in that era.
例えば自分が歩いていて進行方向に壁が立ちふさがってます。これがまあいろんな、日々起こっているその問題ですよね。で壁を越えなければいけないという状況に僕があります。
So just going to give an example. So say you're walking forward and there's like a wall on your way. This wall represents many different obstacles that you come across in your daily life.
で壁を越えるために必要なのが本当はテクノロジーなんですよ。はしごをかけたり空を飛んだりできれば僕は壁を越えれます。でもそのテクノロジーがない場合どうするかっていうのが僕らをより良きゲームデザイナーにするチャンスだと思っています。
So in order to make it over this wall, the key to making it over the wall is technology. You could use a ladder, you could fly over it, but what the game designer does is they have to think of a way to do that using an idea, find the best idea to make it over that. That's what their job is.
真面目に壁を越える必要はなくて、例えば穴を掘ってもいいですし、横から壁を越えても別にいいわけですね。それをゲームデザイナーがテクノロジーがなければないでアイデアを出すことでこういったように見せる一種のマジックみたいなものですけども、そういうことが僕らの役割なんで、多分彼もそういう感じでゲームを作ってると思いますけど、なのでテクノロジーがあればよりいいものは作れますけど、なければないでアイデアで克服するという作り方ができます。
But in reality, you actually don't need to go over the wall, right? You could just walk around the side of it. You could make a hole through the middle of it and go through it. These are just simple examples of ideas that you would use, how you would use an idea to overcome this obstacle. And a game designer does the same thing, and they present it to the player as if they did go over the wall. And that's the kind of magic that you see in games. That's the responsibility of game designers, is to carry out this task. So, having great technology, of course, is better. But when technology presents a barrier to you, your ideas are the key to overcome that. I think Josh probably looks at it the same way. It's a basic game designer philosophy.
Yeah, I think you need constraints to enhance your creativity or something like that.
I find it harder to work on a blank slate where you can do anything. It's almost, do you find it easier to work within a restriction sometimes?
そうですね、今のハードすごく性能がいいですけど、それでもできないことがいっぱいあるので、そことどう向き合って戦うかっていうのでアイデアが出てきます。
Yeah, so the hardware that we have at our fingertips now is incredibly powerful, but there's still things that we can't accomplish. We can still think of things that are not can't be accomplished on the hardware. So that again, that's where using your ideas to overcome the situation comes into play.
あるいはテクノロジーだけじゃなくてバジェットとかスケジュールも限られたものなので、その中でどうするかっていうところに僕らの力を発揮するところが潜んでるっていう、そういうポジティブな捉え方をしています。
So yeah, and it's not just technology, right? Like the conditions or restrictions. You have a budget to work with, you have a schedule to work with, and again, that's where the game designer comes into play. And they need to, use their skills to come up with the best ideas to overcome these restrictions.
It's really cool. I mean, and by comparison to, most games nowadays, Framed seems very, very complete. Was there anything that you decided to leave out? Any feature or part of the story?
Yeah, I think most games and most movies and everything has things that are left out. I'm trying to think exactly. There were a couple mechanics that we were going to try and put in there that we decided not to. I'm not going to say what because they might show up.
This is a safe place.
But that said, one of the things about Framed was there wasn't like a strong story. I guess it was a bit like Mad Max in that it put you in this position, and it was more about the feelings and experiences along the way. But towards the end of development, we did have to cut things to hit a specific date. And so, towards the end of the game, there's a section where you kind of rearrange larger parts of the story. And I personally, am not satisfied with it because we had to cut things from that section so it goes over some people's heads. And I think in general, it's the general feedback I've framed is that it's too subtle.
Okay.
So those are things that we've learned as we grow and we learn those things. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, did you? At what point in the production process do you set the release date, or did you have to push the release date back yourself?
Yeah, I think there's not a thing in existence that hasn't had a release date pushed back. Yeah, I think we set Frame's release date about 6 weeks before. We were about to finish, and that was partly due to money and due to pressure from the platform that we were releasing on as well. So we were trying to hit a specific date, knowing that that would get us, a prominent spot and everything. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Kojima-san, have you had a similar situation?
です自分一人の中で考えている分には発売日は決まってません。当然頭の中だけなんで誰も言ってないものがいっぱいありますけど。
So I'm always thinking of the sales date in my head, like just discussing me myself personally. Yes.
で僕の口から外に出てプロジェクトになったものはもうその段階で制作、発売日を決めてます。今までもそうですし、これからもそうです。
So I have the idea in my head, like I just said, and I have the date in my head alongside with it. And then when I first tell somebody about it, like tell the team about it, that's when we decide basically the development schedule, the development process, and that is actually the time when we decide the release date, right away.
ある種映画の制作発表みたいなもので、いついつシューティングを始めて、いついつ公開して、その公開日には全国の何百何万館の映画館を抑えるということなので、当然プロジェクトにした時には、どういうふうなスケジュールでものを作ってプロモーションして発売日を迎えるっていう周知な計画も立てて、それに合わせてゲームを作ってます。はい、結構優秀なんだと思います、自分でも。
So yes, it's the same for movies. For example, when production on a movie starts out, they plan like the shooting and everything to in time with the release date. They know that when the release date is, so then they secure the movie theaters for that time, so they can secure the number of seats that they need to fill, and the schedule and the promotion and all the planning revolves around meeting that same date, like everything running up to that point. I feel that I myself am actually very good at this process.
Cool. Appreciate it. Do you have have you set the date for Death Stranding? You don't have to tell me what it is.
決まってますけど、ちょっと発表はできませんけど、はい。
Of course, it's decided, but I cannot
もちろん
tell
決
you.
まってます。
Of course, it's
Of
decided.
course. Cool. Well, my next few questions are now redundant, so sorry, give me a second. Well, in terms of the reception of your games, as I turn the page, Kojima, you publicly acclaimed Framed on Twitter. You said the high sense of gameplay, graphics, and sound, it's my best game of the year without any doubt. And recently you said on a BBC interview that movies and games will merge eventually. Do you feel that Framed is like an early example of how that process is happening?
いやいや、いい例だと思いますよ。はい。映画とゲームというか、漫画も含めた、新しいエンターテインメントという意味で、非常に評価します。
Yes, I think it's a good example. Not particular between games and movies, but games and comics in this instant. I think it's a really good example of a new type of experience. That's something that I really love about it.
フレームドで列車のシーンがあるんですけども、列車と列車をこう、前後を入れ替えると、これ時間をプレイヤーが操作できるんですよね。これ映画ではできないですね。
So there's a scene in frame with a train, and you can like move the train back and forth, and it changes the time. This is something that you can never do in a movie.
で時間だけではなくて、車両の中と外とこれも入れ替えることができる。これもすごく奥行きがあるというか、これも映画ではできないんで、すごくびっくりしました。
And the train itself too, you can be on the outside or inside. It has this depth to it. This is again an example of something that you could not do in a movie. I was very surprised by this.
そういう意味で非常に新しい歴史に残るゲームじゃないですかね、フレームは。
Yeah, so yeah, those are just some of the examples of how it was a new experience. I think it's a game that will go down in history.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Speaking of success, Josh, you did an interview with Pocket Gamer, and you talked about the irony of success and how it changes a person. So you've just announced Frame 2. Has it been released yet?
No. We're aiming for somewhere around May or June this year. Yeah.
So how are you?
That's our aim. So that's not
We know
an
how that
announcement.
How are you feeling today then?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about development. I think like for Framed, I was like so engrossed in it that I just like neglected everything else in my life. And in terms of like the path to success, like I kind of understood how the festivals worked and how and I mean really that's just like you look at movies, you know, successful independent films that are like at Cannes and stuff. They tend to do this festival circuit and pick up awards, so they kind of get more traction and everything.
So you come to things like RTX, and then
Exactly.
That's right.
The
yeah,
peak.
that makes sense.
Yeah, but no. I mean, like I remember after release, like it like a large, you know, decompression. So with Frame 2, like I've been, you know, actively trying to maintain like a healthy balance and healthy
Sure.
routine. And you know, my girlfriend's helped that a lot. And you know, like after Frame, like I saw a therapist and everything to help. And I think a large part of that's like expectations. Like my expectations of myself are far too high, like too unrealistic.
Sure.
So when I don't reach them, like I'm never like quite satisfied. So for Frame 2, like it's more about being satisfied with what realistically is a good achievement.
Sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of aiming for the moon, you're kind of just saying, this is what I want Frame 2 to be.
Yeah. And remembering that like it's a long marathon, it's a long process. Like, you know, you're climbing a mountain, you're not just trying to jump it in one leap.
Sure.
Thing.
Hey, just like RTX Sydney, it's better the second time. It's always easier the second time. That's really cool. So do you think you'll change again?
Yeah, I think like everyone continues, you know, to grow, you know, as humans and as creators. You know, that's why you see different themes and different, you know, like how artists change over time as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's natural.
Kojima-san, did you notice a similar thing? Did you change after the success of Metal Gear Solid?
ほとんど何も変わってないです。
Almost nothing's changed.
まだ僕は成功したとは思ってないので、これから成功しようかなと、デス・ストランディングで成功しようかなと、思ってます。
Yeah, I don't think I've reached success yet. It's my plan to reach it with Death Stranding. So that's my plan right now.
僕にとってのサクセスっていうのは太陽みたいなもんなんで、それが目標なんで、そこに向かっていきますけど、あまりにも近づきすぎると燃え尽きて死んでしまうんで、近づかず遠からずというか、そういう関係で常にサクセスを目標として進んでいこうかなという、そういう感じで思ってますね。
For me, success is like the sun. If you go too close to the sun, you'll get burned. So I try to keep like just the right distance, like get close enough but stay far enough away, so that I can, you know, be safe and be successful. So for me, that's the kind of success I want to have.
Well, I have one very last question for you, Kojima-san. What advice would you give Joshua Boggs in his career now if he wanted to achieve the same legacy?
ですね、これ言っていいですかね、ジョッシュのことを。
Is it okay if he says something personal?
Yeah, that's fine.
2015年の12月の年末に小島プロダクションという会社を立ち上げました。
So I started Kojima Productions at the end of in December of 2015.
で、世界中の人に人材募集したらいっぱい来たんですけど、
So
応募が。
I received many applications to work there from people all over the world.
その中にジョッシュがいたんです
Inside of there, I received an application from Josh.
でまあ、ジョッシュはフレームドを作った、まあ、有名なゲームデザイナーでもう何十個も賞を取ってるし一人でできるやんとなんで僕のとこ来るのっていう何回もダメ出しをしても何回も送ってくるんですよね
So yeah, he made Frames, a totally awesome game. He's won so many awards. He can do it by himself. Why is he coming to my place? You know, he can do it all by himself.
で、まあ、東京まで来て、弟子入りさせてくださいって来たんですけどちょっと断りましたけど
Yeah, and he applied. He keeps applying many times. I keep turning him down. And he actually came to Tokyo and said, "Please let me be your apprentice." And I turned him down again.
まあ、ジョッシュは才能あるので僕はサポートはいくらでもしますサポートね
Well, Josh is very, very talented, so I'm willing to support him in any way that I can.
作るのは彼なんで
But he needs to create.
一緒には
games.
できないお互いゲームデザイナーなんで喧嘩するんでできないと思います
We're both game designers, so we'll fight. We can't work together, but I can support.
で、まあ、彼今インディーズですけど、まあ、大きなバジェットのリメイクでもリブートでも続編でもいいですから必ずそういうのを受けてもらって、未来のそのインディーズの若者たちに夢を与えてもらいたいと思います
So right now, Josh is an independent developer. At some time, I would like him to take on something which a much larger budget. Maybe like even if you want to start out with a reboot or a remake or something like that, and show all of the younger kids in the indie scene that you can proceed down this path. This is how you do it.
リブートでも続編でもいいんですけど、まあ、やっぱりジョッシュが作ったリブートっていうかそこに作家性がある人は絶対あると思うんですけど、まあ、そういうのをやらない人もいますけどそのリスクもありますけどそこでやっぱりこう大きなバジェットのものを作ってもらって、まあ、成功してもらうっていうのは僕はいいかなと思います
So it could be a reboot or it could be a sequel or something like that. But I really, if you choose to go down the path, I hope that it's when you do that, you make it your own. It becomes like your version of whatever it is. And some people never choose to take on a big budget project like that. But I really feel that that's something that you should do, and it's achieve greater success in that way.
でまあ、ローグワンを取ったギャレス・エドワーズとかもそうなんですけどもインディーズでそこから才能を買われてハリウッド行って失敗する人もいますけどそこで成長してまたインディーズに帰ってもいいと思うので、そういうクリエイターになってもらいたいなと思います小島プロダクションに来ずにね
So it's like Gareth Edwards, who was the director of Rogue One. He started out in independent films, and he made his way into Hollywood. He's very successful. Some people, of course, do go to Hollywood and they aren't successful, but there are other people like him who are, and you can always go back. So I really hope that you take a path like this and become successful without joining Kojima Productions.
And on that note, I think we're going to have to finish it. Thank you very much for joining us, Kojima-san. And Joshua Boggs, big round of applause. Thank you very much.